And I'm the coordinator of Immersion in World Languages. And I'm super excited to be here tonight to talk to you about immersion education. This evening, you'll be meeting our kindergarten teachers and some parents who will be describing their experience as being parents of immersion students. And we're excited again to hear your questions and to tell you about what we love, immersion education. Okay, next slide. We always like to start with our District 742 mission. Our mission is to create a safe and caring climate and culture in which we prepare, engage, educate, empower, and inspire all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Immersion education creates an environment that prepares learners to meet District 742's mission. Next slide. So I personally love this slide because this is our mission in Chinese and in Spanish. So our students in Chinese and Spanish immersion will be able to one day read these missions in these languages. And personally, I cannot read any of the Chinese, and yes, I can read the Spanish, but I think it really is impactful to see what your children will be learning. Next slide. It's important to understand what language immersion is. Language immersion is teaching the same Minnesota state standards in another language besides English. Instruction is solely delivered in Chinese or Spanish in grades kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. It is free and available to students who speak any language. And take a look at those cute kindergartners. Love them. Next. With language immersion, students are immersed in a second language while learning math, science, social studies, reading, writing, health, etc. Language and content teaching are integrated in developmentally appropriate ways. Instruction is in immersion language for a minimum of 50% of the day. And for our program, we're considered a 90-10 program because most of our day is taught in the target language besides music, ed, and art. And we're sometimes called a one-way immersion program, which means that it oftentimes is designed for non-native speakers of a language, but we also love to have native speakers in our programs. Next. We currently have 6 schools in our district that have language immersion. We are a full K-12 immersion district. And our Chinese immersion program is on the north side with Guangming Academy. We have our elementary school, Madison Elementary. Students then go to north for their middle school experience and then end at Apollo High School. For Spanish immersion, it's on the south side, Academia de Español Vista Clara. And we have Clearview as the elementary, South as the middle school, and Tech as the high school. Next. This slide is just to kind of show you that from 2006 to 2011, there were 183 programs and it jumped to 448 programs total. Minnesota used to be the 4th in our nation in immersion education. We are now 2nd, which means we are one of the leaders in immersion education in the entire United States. Next. Although it's difficult to keep up with the growing community of immersion schools in Minnesota, at last count, there were 73 programs at preschool, elementary, and secondary levels, educating an estimated 13,000 students and employing over 600 educators. Immersion exists in Minnesota and it is thriving. Next. So, this is really kind of a neat snapshot, and this, I'm going to have Ryan play this video, and this is the Chinese immersion kindergarten classroom, and afterwards I'm going to have Summer tell you a little bit about Chinese immersion kindergarten.
以后再也不挠你了，张无。他说什么？他说什么？我不挠你了是什么意思？哎，我再也不要推口你了，我不要，哎，我不要。因为他 realize 他以前呢，他就说我只会 take 我会挠痒痒，对不对？
Summer, I have no idea what you were saying, but those kindergartens knew what you were saying. Give us a little idea of what Chinese immersion kindergarten is like.
Okay, so this is a very short video. You're right. It's just like a snapshot. This is what we are doing every single day. So when kids first came, they're a little bit scared. And I've had kids said, Yang Lao Shi, I don't understand anything you're talking about. But it really does not matter after a while. So because I think you took this probably 2 or 3 months, 2 months, I think after they came into kindergarten knowing zero Chinese. So this is what the kindergarten looks like. They're just exactly look like any English kindergartens, but everything is delivered in Chinese. They will be a little bit scared, they will be a little bit hard time in the beginning, but they pick up those language very, very fast. Because of what we do in immersion program, we try to teach kids just like when they're learning English. So we started the first day, we started singing songs, showing them the videos. They start to pick up. I do use some how to navigate in school, but after that, I do speak both. I try to speak more and more Chinese, and then they pick up a lot of those as we goes along. Usually, like after 3 months, they're able. In the beginning, I think for parents, you hear more like they start to sing some songs, start to say some numbers, and after that, and they start to speak like more like sentences. So our lessons involves a lot of singing, dancing, a lot of repetition, because that's just what we do. Because that's how you teach kids when they speak English, how they start to speak English. Now, one of the things I think being able to learn a second language not only help their cognitive development, but also but also other different social skills, different other aspects as well. What's unique about Chinese is that Chinese is not a phonic-based language. So if they do not know any letters, no problem. They don't know how to write letters, read letters, no problem. So Chinese is a tone language, stroke-based. So it does require a lot of fine motor skills, but they learn very fast. They get to learn also pretty advanced level. So usually at the end of the kindergarten, they're able to have basic conversations in Chinese with a native speaker. So they're able to have all of those. Yep.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm still trying to learn my 5th phrase in Chinese, so it's amazing what those kindergartners learn. Thank you for sharing, Summer. Ryan, I'll have you go to the next slide, please. Here is going to be a small snapshot of a Spanish immersion kindergarten classroom, and then afterwards we will have Krista talk a little bit about the Spanish immersion kindergarten experience.
Enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre, meses del año.
All right, so the kids were working on their calendar time. And I am Krista, by the way. I have been teaching kindergarten Spanish immersion for, gosh, I think it's been about 12 years almost at Clearview. I don't know, 11 or 12. But in Spanish immersion, the kids do, just as Summer mentioned, all of the same things that the English kids do. We just do everything in Spanish. So we have our calendar time and we do lots of singing and counting, and they learn how to do all of it in Spanish. So at the beginning of the year, they come in, pretty much most of them will be able to say hola and adios, and they can maybe count to 10. But as the year goes on, it's just amazing to see how they grow. When we do our teaching, like I said, that it's all done in Spanish. So when we do assessments, we also do our assessments in Spanish. So a lot of times parents will come to conferences, and when we share with them your child is counting to 55. They'll say to me, "Oh, in English, right?" And I'm like, "No, that's in Spanish. Everything that we do is in Spanish." So the all the letters and everything that we work on is with Spanish. The thing that's different with the Chinese and the Spanish, of course, is that Spanish has very similar letters to English. And so if the kids come in knowing a lot, some of their letters, they're able to translate some of that information, and they just learn a new name for the letter and sometimes a new sound. Some of the sounds are similar in both languages. So, but Spanish immersion kindergarten is very similar to English kindergarten. The kids have time for playing each day and socializing. They spend lots of time with their friends. And of course, in kindergarten, they speak a lot of English with each other, but when they are talking to the teacher, they will start to use different phrases in Spanish. And we're always reminding them when we would get to do math games and doing literacy things, we would remind them, oh, make sure you're using Spanish counting. And they pick up on that so quickly. After about the first month of school, you almost never hear them count in English or say shapes in English. It's always in Spanish. So it's really amazing to see how much they grow. Let me see. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, I just wanted to mention too that your child, if you choose Spanish immersion, they'll be coming home singing so many songs to you. I usually hear from the parents about how much singing happens, and it's true. We sing pretty much all day long, and we have songs for everything. So yeah, Spanish immersion is a great place to be.
Thanks, Krista. Next slide, Ryan. So you probably already heard, as both teachers said, what kindergarten is like in their classrooms. You can already see some benefits. But here, I'm just going to go over some of them. First and foremost, it's to develop Chinese or Spanish language skills. Immersion also develops greater listening skills. It develops higher level thinking skills, and it helps to obtain increased awareness and appreciation of other cultures. Students also achieve as well as or better than non-immersion peers on standardized tests in verbal and mathematical skills. One point I'd like to make is that if your child is an average student in English, they will be an average student in immersion. If they're an excellent student in English, they'll be an excellent student in immersion. And if they struggle with school, they may struggle in immersion. It doesn't change who your student is, but it doesn't make them a worse student from who they are. They are the student they are, and they will be that in immersion as well. Next slide. So immersion again enhances academic and linguistic performance in the immersion language and in English. It physically enhances the cognitive brain development, and it's like your brain is wired differently by being exposed to another language at an early age. It increases career and social opportunities and expands worldview and global competencies, meaning students can navigate a global world. That second bullet point about being wired differently, I've had many parents say to me that they choose immersion education because of the brain development, and learning a second language is kind of a bonus. Next slide. Immersion benefits for our schools and community, there are many. It provides parents with options and choice. Immersion affirms multiculturalism and diversity in education. It increases student achievement, which is based on research. It builds community partnerships. We work with many different institutions of higher learning in our community. And it increases student enrollment in public education. Next. How does it work? I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on the K-12 immersion model. Next. So we've already mentioned that in grades K through 2, it's 100% immersion in the classroom. That means that the core content areas are taught in the immersion language. Art, music, and phys ed are our specialist teachers, and that would be taught in English. Our students are assessed in the immersion language and English, and formal English instruction begins in 3rd grade. I want you to take a peek at that picture. In both of our programs, we do immersion concerts. This happens to be a picture of our Chinese immersion concert at St. Cloud State University, and we take great pride in our immersion concerts, and all of our families attend and the community attends. And this is something special that happens when your child is in an immersion classroom. Next. Grades 3 through 5, your core content areas are still taught in the immersion language, but now we add 30 to 60 minutes of instruction in reading and writing in English. Students take the MCA assessments in reading and math, and they do take those in English. That is a requirement that they're taken in English, even though they're being taught in Chinese or Spanish. Grade 5 will take the science MCAs in English. Next. So our secondary model looks like this. Grade 6 through 8 will take social studies and immersion language arts in that target language, Chinese or Spanish. A special opportunity for all immersion students at the middle level is that they have the opportunity to do an immersion capstone trip, which is offered to 8th and 9th grade immersion students, and they will go to a country where that language is spoken. Our Chinese students have gone to China 3 times, and our Spanish immersion students went last February to Ecuador for their first capstone trip. In grades 9 through 12, we continue with immersion language arts, and that includes AP courses and PSEO, which is basically going to college. Next. What do we expect? First of all, we expect that parents or guardians participate in an informational session like this to become informed about the immersion program, its benefits and requirements. We ask that parents commit to having their child stay with the program throughout the elementary school year. And the bullet to the left, we ask that parents or guardians read and assist their child with English language skills at home. We are teaching them in Chinese and Spanish, and we need that extra scoop of support from you. Next. After first grade, students are not able to transfer into an immersion program unless they do an immersion language assessment. That means that we don't have students joining us in grades 2, 3, 4, or 5 unless they already have some previous knowledge of that language. We also want to encourage our students to attend an immersion summer school, which typically happens in August and occasionally in June, and this helps to retain their language skills. Next. We often get asked about our data, and I think it's important that we see how immersion students are doing. So the 742 immersion students are the orange, and the yellow is our Minnesota statewide students. We did not take the MCAs last year, so this is data from 2019. And as you can see, in 3rd grade reading, our immersion students lag a little bit. It's common for immersion students to lag in English language arts, but usually they get caught up somewhere in 4th grade. It can sometimes take until the end of 4th grade for them to really be at or above their English-only peers. Here you can see in 4th grade, immersion students are doing better, and then in 5th grade, they really take a jump. Next slide. Here's our math scores. In 3rd, 4th, and 5th, immersion students show strong ability in math. Math is not only language-based, therefore that lag, it's more of the concepts. And immersion, for some reason, just really matches well with our students learning math. Next slide. This is 2 years ago now for reading. I don't want you to think the 1 year was an anomaly. So here's our 3rd grade readers. As you can see again, they're equal to their statewide students who are not in immersion. And then by 4th grade, they are a little bit ahead. And then by 5th, quite a bit ahead. And then let's see math. So here again, our students kind of follow the trend as far as 3rd, 4th, and 5th as the statewide students. They drop a little bit in 5th grade, as do, again, the Minnesota students. But again, their scores are outscoring the Minnesota students. Next slide. What's your role as a parent? We want you to read your child in English. We want you to support your child's learning and ask questions about what your child is learning. Again, we want you to read to your child in English, practice phonics with your child, do activities and having fun with an English packet. We hand out a having fun with English packet, but depending on which program you're in, we decide the best time to give that out. In Chinese, it's typically in kindergarten, and for Spanish immersion, it's typically in first grade. And that's the kindergarten through second grade English standards put into a packet. Last but not least, read to your child in English. We cannot overemphasize the importance of you spending time reading with your child with books and showing them rich vocabulary when you're in the grocery store and when you are speaking to them. That is really an important piece for their language development. Next slide. All right, this is exciting. I'd like you to meet our immersion parents. Sarah Mendoza is a Chinese immersion program, and her two sons are at Madison Elementary in first grade and in third grade. And Sarah, I just would like you to give us a little bit of a perspective of what it's like for you as a parent of two Chinese immersion students.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah, and I'm so excited to be here to talk about the Chinese immersion program. I hope that you decide to send your child to an immersion program. The reason why we decided to do immersion in general was just due to the sheer fact of those cognitive brain development pieces that Sue talked about earlier. And it's a really great thing to help their brain grow and develop. And we were just amazed by the data shown just a moment ago, even in the MCA testing, that they kind of outshined even just Minnesota standards. I was a little hesitant. I'm actually Korean, so I don't know. I came into the program not knowing any Chinese or the language at all. And my husband and I actually do speak a little bit of Spanish, so we were thinking about doing Spanish, but it was a bit too far for us. So we chose to do Chinese immersion, just being reassured that it's okay that you don't speak the language, that you really just do focus on helping your children with the English part of the language acquisition. And that really, that got us into the program and wanting us to do it. And just immersion in general, whether it was Spanish or Chinese, we were really drawn to the idea that we have an immersion program here in St. Cloud, and that it is a free program, that anyone can apply for it. And we've been so happy and thrilled being in the Chinese immersion program. And we have been lucky enough to have Miss Summer for 3 years of Chinese immersion. My oldest son, Charlie, got to have her in kindergarten and first grade. And then my youngest son, Braulio, is in first grade. And Braulio had Summer for kindergarten, and she's just wonderful. And they just do a really good job of creating this nice little community and tight-knit group of students. And we just love that. And yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, I'm on Facebook and you can connect with me.
I'll just ask one question.
Sure.
Was there anything that was difficult when your students started in kindergarten? Was there anything as a parent that you were like, oh, this is a challenge, or did it all go pretty smoothly? Were your children tired when they came home, or?
Sure. Yeah, I think, trying to learn a new language and then speaking it all day, it is a little mentally exhausting for your child, but they come home and they're ready to go to sleep right away. But also I think, you can definitely see them learning that language so much quicker because they are speaking it every day, and they're speaking it pretty much all day long that they're in school. And I've even just from learning from them, we as a family have learned how to count in Chinese and say hello and goodbye. And it's been really fun learning some of those Chinese words with them as well. But yes, I think in the first kindergarten overall, I think, is a big transition for kids. When I was in school, we had kindergarten for half days, and now they go to kindergarten for full days. And so I think even for any kindergarten, it's a hard transition. But kids, like we have said before, are resilient, and they really pick up on those changes very quickly and very easily. And I think it was, gosh, I feel like probably was only in first grade, but kindergarten feels like so long ago. I think he adjusted probably within the first month. So you have the same kind of kindergarten experience as you would in an English classroom. They start with a little bit of a rest period, which Braulio, as a first grader, could still take a nap every day, and he would be okay. So they incorporate that little rest time, and like Krista said, they have playtime and time to interact with their fellow students, which I also think is important. And that is time needed for a kindergartner.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. John, let's hear what your experience is like being a Spanish immersion dad of kids.
Thanks to John Bruins. We've got 3 kids in the Spanish immersion program, a kindergartner, second grader, and a 4th grader. So we've been in the program for a number of years now. Just incredible things that we've experienced with all of our kids. It's just such a unique opportunity that we felt like they had that chance to learn that. And as Sue said, I think just a bonus on top of the instruction that they get. And as Professor Krista talked about, who our son has now, they're doing the traditional things that you do in kindergarten. They're learning shapes, they're learning colors, they're learning numbers, but they're doing them in Spanish. And like Sarah said, kids are so malleable that they pick up on those things really quick. So like just even today, our youngest was working on cutting out shapes to make a snowman, but he was making a muñeca de nieve, so a snowman, and writing that. And we've just really enjoyed the program. What we have found, and I'm thinking that this is probably the case in the Chinese immersion as well too, is you get families who might have multiple kids in, so it creates this community of families who, they've got younger kids or older kids that kind of end up in line maybe with your kids as well too. So some of our youngest classmates have older siblings that are in class with our older kids as well too. So that just really creates this unique kind of environment. Another thing that's really kind of cool about the Spanish immersion program is that in a typical year now, we don't have any this year, but they have Amity Interns, which are kind of like student teachers from native Spanish-speaking countries. They've recently either finished university or they're finishing university. They come over here to teach for a year, kind of be teaching interns in the classroom, and they actually live with host families. We were able to host one 2 years ago, so we had a gentleman from Colombia who lived with us, and that just added a whole nother dynamic of that culture piece that they're learning, some additional Spanish as well too. Just really gives you another opportunity to get into that community. Last year we were an aunt and uncle family for a girl from Spain, so she came and stayed with us about a weekend a month or so. Ended up being a little bit more in the spring since classes weren't always in session and things like that. So I'm always amazed, and I'm especially amazed now at the teachers and how they're being interactive, especially with the students, with distance learning, the songs, the interaction. It is, as I'm peeking over my son's shoulder and singing the songs with him and doing the actions with him, and he's rolling his eyes at me, but to see them manage the classroom, as they've got the kids on there, but keeping them engaged at the same time. I've just been so impressed, and we've really, really enjoyed our experience. And we're really, really glad that we've done it. It was kind of one of those decisions of we said, we have to try it and see how it goes. And we're so glad that we did, because we've had nothing but good things to say.
Wow. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing, both Sarah and John. Next slide, which we're nearing the end of our presentation. Here's some important dates to remember. So we have another Immersion Town Hall meeting on January 20th. It's the same information as tonight. So if you're here tonight, if you'd like to come again, awesome, but it will be pretty much what we just covered. January 25th is when kindergarten enrollment begins. And if you are picking up, if you want to do a packet drive up pickup, it's from 5 to 6:30 p.m. February 1st is Madison, and February 2nd is Clearview's. And I'm going to let Tammy DeLand give you additional details about kindergarten enrollment.
Thank you, Sue. I am Tammy DeLand. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Communication. I also work with the Welcome Center, especially around enrollment time because it's very busy. And this year is different than most enrollment years for obvious reasons. And we're trying to make it as convenient as we can for parents. And that's why, as Sue said, there is actually going to be a drive-up enrollment process where you can go to your school and get the enrollment packet itself for kindergarten. You may also enroll online, which is obviously very, very convenient for you to do. You can do it in your PJs at home. What I want to add, what's not on the slide, and I don't know if John or Sarah have any more little ones coming up, but if you are already a parent in 742's system, you can see that kindergarten enrollment launches on January 25. But if you are already a District 742 family, you can participate in Kindergarten Express. And that means starting Monday on the 11th, you can enroll your kindergartner early. And you do that by going online, and I believe in Seesaw tomorrow, you'll get all those instructions. And that early enrollment period for 742 families is from July 11th up into January 25th. As always, if you have any questions about enrollment, just reach out to the Welcome Center and you can ask those questions. We have an English hotline, a Spanish hotline, and a Somali hotline.
Great. Thank you so much, Tammy. Next slide, Ryan. In a nutshell, we love our immersion programs. We are language immersion proud. And the last slide after this is information on the Welcome Center in case you would like to take down any of that information. The phone number is there, the address is there. There's also an email. You also have my contact information in case you would like to reach out for more information about either program. And if you would like to talk to anybody else in our program, I can connect you to the principals or any of the teachers. And just thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And Sue, I just want to add, I have been watching the form for any questions tonight, and none have come in. So if there are any last-ditch questions, the form is on the website and on our Facebook and Twitter. We're recording tonight also. If you have questions you didn't get asked, you can use the form for the next time as well. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Super.
I think one thing I would add too, as a member of the Clearview PTA, I think if you have questions about either of the programs, I'm sure that you can also reach out to the schools, but also the PTAs as well to talk with parents who might have questions that feel like you might want to get answered.
Thanks, John. I know Sarah's also a part of the Chinese Immersion CPAC, so both of you are very involved in the schools and would be great people to connect with to get you linked to the PTAs. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening.